Okay, yesterday we saw the introduction to the Maimer, the first half of the first page. Bosi leGani I've come back to my garden, is how the pasuk would be translated based on what the Rebbe taught us. That the Iker Shechina b'tachtenim Haisa, through certain improper behavior of the first 20 generations of the world, so Shechina was expelled from the world through 7 levels. Then through the next 7 generations, starting from Avram Avinu, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Levi, Kahas, Amram, Moshe, Shechina was brought down into the world, and the Iker expression of that is the Mikdash, which of course in Moshe Rabbeinu's generation was Mishkan. And that's V'asili Mikdash v'shachanti b'seicham. They should make for me a Mikdash, and I will dwell in them. B'seichai le'nemar. It doesn't say I'll dwell in it, but rather in them. B'chol echad ve'echad. In each and every one of us. Okay. And that's Bosi leGani. V'inyan hu. Could I ask you to please close that door? Usually Rabbi Levinger's door is closed, it must be open. Is his door open?
Yeah.
Yes. Va'inyan hu dehine. Tachlis hakavana b'brias v'isavos eilumus. The ultimate purpose of the creation and the bringing into being. Hithavut. A word that I think we've seen before. It's a word you see a lot in Chassidus. The root of the word is from the verb form lihiot, to be. It's the causative form of lihiot, lihavot, to cause to be, which of course you and I can't do. All right? Only the Eibishter can give something being. Hithavut is the bringing into being. Hakavana b'brias v'isavos eilumus, 4 eilumus, we're going to see. And why? What was the ultimate reason? Because I'll give a number of reasons for the creation of the world, but Al Pi Chassidus Tachlis HaKavana is the Medrash in Tanchuma and Parshas Nosai, Bamidbar. The Nis'ava Kadosh Baruch Hu Liyos Lo Yisbarach Dir B'Tachtenim. That the Eibishter wanted a dwelling place in the lower realms. Now he didn't just want the dwelling place in the lower realms. We'll see what the taiva really was. Shiyah Gilu Elokus Lamata, that there should be a revelation of Elokus below, and that's the Dir B'Tachtenim, the dwelling place in the lower realms. But Al Yedei Avedas Adam. Part of the taiva was that it should come up as a result of you and I doing what you and I have to do. Right? It's the...
Rabbi said revelation of?
I'm sorry?
Revelation of?
God. It's for the dark.
I'll try. Sorry.
Right? The revelation of the Eibishter in Eilam Hazeh, and that should happen through our avodah. That is the taiva. The taiva is not simply that there should be a revelation in this world, because if the Eibishter wants to be revealed in this world, then it's very easy for him to do that. He can just reveal himself in this world. He could have made the world in a way that he's revealed, and as a matter of fact, he did. It's called Gan Eden. But that world lasted a few hours, and then was done away with. And the next time the Eibishter created a world where to a great extent he was revealed was Matan Torah, and that world was also done away with. Chet Egel. And at the end of that whole process, you end up with the world exactly the way the Eibishter wants it. It's a big mess, and there's a Torah, and fix it. Right? That's basically the world that... And we're on the verge of that, seeing that fixing. All right? So that's the taiva. And how is that? What is the avodah that is supposed to bring this about? Al yedei iskafia v'yizhavcha. Iskafia means to subdue the Yetzer Hara. Kfiyah. Kfiyah is coercion. V'yizhavcha. lahafoch, to transform. So it's the overcoming of the taivas of the nefesh habahamis and ultimately transforming the nefesh habahamis. That what's going to be, so it's interesting. Everything the Rebbe is about to say in the next line is in future tense, meaning this is the desire. This is all part of the taiva. It's very interesting. It's not that the neshama descends into the world and this is what it does. No, it will, and this is what it will do. It's in future tense. I mean, this is all explaining the taiva. What's the taiva? The neshama tered lamata. That the neshama, future tense, will descend below, lislavish beguf v'nefesh habahamis, to be clothed in a guf and a nefesh habahamis, v'heim, future tense again, not that they do, they will, again, it's part of the taiva, explaining the taiva. V'heim yalimu v'yastiru al neshama, they will conceal and hide the light of the neshama, the guf and the nefesh habahamis, right? Three things existing, I don't know what exactly we can call it in harmony, but three things existing together down here. A guf, which is a mishkan, which is a resting place for two different levels of energy. Nefesh habahamis, nefesh elokis. Nefesh habahamis is interested in whatever it's interested in. Nefesh elokis is interested in godliness. What's the nefesh habahamis interested in? Well, it depends on the nefesh habahamis. We're going to see. I mean, has it been educated to be interested in elokus? Naturally, the nefesh habahamis is not interested in elokus. Rabbi will say that very, very clearly. The second parak, but I mean, we know that. The nefesh habahamis is interested in expression of self, naturally. Does it have to stay there? It doesn't have to stay there. It can be elevated and educated and elevated and illuminated. But all things being equal, what is the job of the nefesh habahamis? And interesting enough, the guf, even though we've been learning Tanya in Tanya, so of course relative to the way everybody else always talked about this until the Alter Rebbe came along and talked about it in a completely different way, that is now, basically the way most people talk about it. The battle was always body and soul, right? That was the battle, guf and nefesh, right? There's a guf and there's a nefesh. And the goof is trying to do what it wants to do, and the nefesh is trying to get the goof to do what the nefesh wants the goof to do, and that nefesh wants the goof to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the battle. The Alter Rebbe explains it in a much deeper and more complete way, that no, the goof is passive. The goof is this passive thing that'll do whatever it's told to do. If you tell your goof to reach into your pocket, take $10 out and give it to a person on the street, your hand will do that. If you tell your hand to reach into someone else's pocket and take $10 out of his pocket and put it in your pocket, your hand will do that. Your hand doesn't care, it'll do whatever it's told to do. The question is, what's it being told to do, and so to speak, who is telling it to do what it is that it's doing? Is the nefesh habahamis in control, or is the nefesh elokis in control? Now we've learned numerous times, endless times, that when the nefesh elokis gets what it wants, it can only do that through the agency of the nefesh habahamis. Right? The nefesh elokis does not control the guf directly. The nefesh habahamis controls the guf directly. Right? Generally, meaning nefesh habahamis is the source of conscious you and me, that experience of self, which isn't negative. It just is what it is. It's a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to experience reality and experience existence. Okay, but I can use that gift for all sorts of wonderful things, or the opposite, unfortunately. Why might it be the opposite? Because inherent in that experience is, again, without education, nefesh habahamis, a very, very powerful sense of self, and therefore I might get into that a little too much. Right? In whatever way I do, I might get into it in terms of physical pleasure, I might get into it in terms of emotional pleasure, I might get into it in terms of spiritual pleasure, right? Nefesh habahamis, right? So the nefesh habahamis can be as involved in mitzvahs as it's involved in eating ice cream, right? I'm doing mitzvahs. Why? It makes me feel good, right? It makes me feel like my life has meaning. Right? It makes me feel uplifted, makes me feel superior to people who don't do mitzvahs. I don't know, whatever reason a person might do mitzvahs for the wrong reason, right? Is it better to do mitzvahs for the wrong reason than not to? Yes, of course. There's no question. It's not even it's a no-brainer, as they say. Okay, that being said, it's still coming from a place that is not really as uplifted and illuminated as it should be, right? And then there's a Nefesh Elokis, and that Nefesh Elokis is interested in serving God netto. Okay, now, can the Nefesh Elokis get the Nefesh Bahamis to express its desires? Where? In the goof. Get the goof to do things that the Nefesh Elokis wants done, but of course it has to do that with the haskama, with the agreement of the Nefesh Bahamis. Meaning conscious me has to decide I'm going to get up and learn Chassidus. Of course my Nefesh Elokis wants to learn Chassidus, right? Actually, there's a beautiful little footnote that the Rebbe has that's in a mimer from Parshas Eikev that the Rebbe says that the Iker Ratzon of the Nefesh Elokis is to sit and learn ideas in Chassidus that are completely and totally focused on HaKadosh Boruch Hu and have nothing to do with reality in this world whatsoever. That's really what the Nefesh Elokis wants to do. Just learn what you and I call Haskalah. Deep ideas in Chassidus that don't, I mean, obviously have something to do with you and I down here, because if we learn those ideas, we sensitize ourselves to Elokus and we act differently down here. But that's not what the Nefesh is interested in learning those ideas just because it wants to connect to and understand the highest levels of godly reality. That's all it's interested in. What does it know? What's the Mesiris Nefesh of the Nefesh Elokis? That it's clothed in a body with the Nefesh Bahamis and has to learn things that also the Nefesh Bahamis can understand, so the Nefesh Bahamis will be a mensch. That's the Mesiris Nefesh of the Nefesh Elokis. Mitzad itself, what does the Nefesh Elokis want to do? It just wants to sit and learn Maimarim about the deepest levels of godly reality. That's all it wants to do. Just leave me alone. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I can't do that. Why? Because that Nefesh Bahamis in the goof. It's down here in Eilam Hazeh. Has to figure out how to make a deal with Tachtenim. Right? Yeah?
Maybe I don't understand. It almost seems to me like the conscious self is sort of independent. The way you're describing, or the way I'm understanding, is the nefesh, the conscious self is almost a separate entity from the nefesh Bahamis and the nefesh Elokis.
Well, it's a part of the nefesh Bahamis.
Yeah.
It's intellect of the nefesh Bahamis. The seichel of nefesh Bahamis is what you and I would call human consciousness. Simply, generally.
But
you can make it more complicated and harder to understand, but that's the basic idea.
Okay. So the nefesh Elokis influences the conscious self.
Hopefully. It might not.
Yeah.
If I've never heard of a nefesh Elokis, and I don't believe I have one, then it's not going to have a very powerful effect on my conscious reality. Right? It'll still have an effect on my conscious reality. Right? Except it's probably going to have an effect on my conscious reality by virtue of the fact that I need to find some cause to fight for that has nothing to do with truth necessarily, but I'll want to fight for a cause because the world has to be better. Nefesh Elokis. But it has no way of expressing itself in any, because consciously I'm not aware of any way of expressing the Nefesh Elokis positively. No one ever taught me anything. Okay, so I'm stuck. So I'll be the head of the Audubon Society, or whatever. I don't know. Is there still an Audubon Society? Right, I guess. They don't even know what the Audubon Society is. Neither do I. I just heard of it. I think it has something to do with, I don't know, what was that? I don't know.
Plants, nature, flowers.
Bird watching? Oh, that's what it is. That's really what it's the bird watching.
It's not
Okay.
part of.
Shalom is looking up the Audubon Society. AUD. Right? Okay. Not ADD.
Name of the Audubon.
I thought.
Well, if you picked up your phone, I assumed you're looking up the Audubon Society. AUDOBON or something.
I thought.
Anyway, no, let's go. We don't have to focus on the Audubon
Rabbi, I
Society.
thought you were saying OTTO.
No. Audubon Society. Okay, so the everything we just described now is how the Nefesh Bahamis, Nefesh Elokis work to somehow exert control over the goof, and it has to do with what we've been learning in Tanya for the last month. Okay, it's 3 weeks. Okay, that's all true, but the nature of the Nefesh Bahamis is that it feels very at home in Eilam Hazeh, and it feels very at home with the goof, the body. And the nature of the Nefesh Elokis is that it doesn't feel particularly at home in Eilam Hazeh, and doesn't feel particularly at home with the body. Right? Meaning, to put it in slightly, down to earth and, maybe even crass terms, not so crass, but Eilam Hazeh for the Nefesh Bahamis is a home game. When the Nefesh Bahamis gets what it wants in this world, the crowd cheers. There's a lot of noise. It's very exciting. Right? Wow, unbelievable. When the Nefesh Elokis gets what it wants in this world, it's like the away team scored a goal. It's quiet. No one, it's nervous. Right? No one's on their feet. When the away team has a rally going in the baseball game, they're sitting on their hands nervous in the home team stadium. But when the home team has a rally going, so they're on their feet screaming, yelling at every pitch. Okay, fine. That's Eilam Hazeh. Eilam Hazeh, relative to the Nefesh Bahamis, when the Nefesh Bahamis gets what it wants in Eilam Hazeh, it gets so excited, there's so much noise, it's so great, it's amazing, it's incredible, bring out the bands. What an incredible steak, what an incredible beer, what an incredible pudding, whatever it is. I don't want to go to the gross parts of it. Okay, fine. When the Nefesh Elokis gets what it wants, I just hear the bands playing while people are putting on tefillin in the morning. People might put on tefillin, so it might be thinking about breakfast, putting on tefillin. Is that possible? Yeah. Hopefully that's not happening, right? I mean, we hope we don't do that, but it's possible to think about breakfast when I put on tefillin, right? It's possible to think about tefillin when I eat breakfast, but it's less likely. Okay. One thing I don't do, not I, royal I, that's royal we. We don't eat breakfast with tefillin. Right? Why? Because we're not going to be thinking about the tefillin, we're going to be thinking about the breakfast. Right? That's why we don't eat or drink with tefillin on. Even drink. Chassidim don't drink tea, coffee, anything with tefillin on. Right? Nothing. Not even a l'chaim. Right? If there's a l'chaim, you take out. If you some people, I've seen this happen. It's a little bizarre, but I've seen it happen. Is they'll pick up their shel rosh, drink the l'chaim. At least they don't have the shel rosh on because that's the holiest part of it. Generally, mostly Chassidim drinking l'chaim, even l'chaim. Sometimes you will, but generally not. Right? Why? Because in tefillin, what are you supposed to be thinking about? You're supposed to think about the Eibishter. And if you're eating or drinking something, what are you thinking about? What you're eating or drinking, because that's the way it works in Eilam Hazeh. Okay, so it's a lot easier for me to think about Gashmias when I'm davening than to think about davening when I'm involved in Gashmias, right? Okay, so it's all in plural. It's all in future. It's so interesting. The neshama tered lamata. The neshama will descend below. This is the taiva. Lislavish beguf and nefesh bahamis, to be clothed in a guf and nefesh bahamis. Veheim, and what is their job? What do they do together? It's not that just the nefesh bahamis does it and the guf is completely passive. Yes, the guf is passive to the extent that it will do. It's the ir ketana. It's the small city that will do that which it is told to do. But it definitely is naturally connected more to Gashmias than the Ruchnias, because that's what it is. It's a davar Gashmi. It's a physical object. Nevertheless, still in future, what does the Eibishter want to happen? Nevertheless, even though there's this tremendous opposition, Tifol HaNeshama, the Neshama will cause Bidur V'Zikuch HaGuf V'Nefesh Bahamis, the rectification and purification of the Guf and the Nefesh Bahamis, V'Gam Chelkei Be'elim, and also its portion in the world, or his portion, talking about the person who is carrying this neshama around in his Guf. His portion in the world. What's Chelkei Be'elim? Chelkei Be'elim is that part of the world that you and I encounter. Each and every one of us has our own personal chelik in the world. My clothes are my clothes, so I can use them for positive purposes, right? Or not. Right, my car is my car, so my car can be used by me for positive things. Now I can lend my car to you, so you can use my car for positive things. Okay, but that's my chelik in the world. All of the gashmias that each and every one of us has, that's our chelik in the world, and we can use that gashmias for positive things. We can elevate it and illuminate it. The those events that happen in our lives. You're walking along the street and you run into an old friend and you have an opportunity to use those minutes talking to this person on the street. Might not be an old friend, might be someone you've never met before, whatever it happens to be. That happening that is taking place in your life is your portion of the world, and you can elevate those minutes by doing something godly in those minutes. Use that time for something positive. Make the person you're talking to feel better, so when they walk away, they'll feel better than when they met you. Okay, good. That's your chalik in the world. That's your part of the world. Every single one of us has our chalik. So we're supposed to elevate our goof and our nefesh habahamis, and also that part of the world that we encounter. Right? That means the gashmis we encounter, the events that happen to us, etc., etc. Right? And what's all? And that's the taiva. That's the Eibishter's taiva. All of that. So interesting. It's all written in future tense. Right? That's the Eibishter's taiva. There should be a dir b'tachteni. What does a dir b'tachteni mean? That there should be a revelation of Elokus and Elam Hazeh. What does that mean? That means the neshama should come down, be clothed in a body and a nefesh habahamis, and rectify and elevate and illuminate itself, that which the part of reality that it shares. It's nefesh habahamis, the nefesh habahamis it hangs around with, and the goof that it's clothed in. And those activities and those realities in Elam Hazeh that it comes in contact with should elevate all of that. I can't elevate yours. How can I elevate yours? Right? Not there. I can elevate mine. Right? And you can elevate yours because you're there. No one else is. And that's Chelke Be'elam. V'zeu v'asili mikdash v'shachanti b'seichem. And this is the pasuk, and we're going to understand this pasuk hopefully very, very well by the end of the Maimer, because the Rebbe is going to explain how this pasuk is basically, it describes our Aveda in Elam Hazeh, what it's all about. V'asili mikdash v'shachanti b'seichem. We saw the pasuk already up top discussing what tzaddikim do. Right? V'asili mikdash v'shachanti b'seichem b'seich kol echad ve'echad. The first time we saw it, it said b'seichei lai nemar elo b'seicham. It doesn't say, make for me a mikdash and I'll dwell in it. Build me a house, I'll live in it. No, it says, they should make for me a mikdash and I will dwell in them. In other words, each and every one of us will develop a certain consciousness of godly reality. And our understanding of reality and our experience of reality will be different. How do we do that? Vasili mikdash. How do we do that? We'll see. B'seich kol echad ve'echad. So the Rebbe explains, how do you do that? This is through the Aveda of Avedas Abirurim, Aveda of rectifications. Right? And even though the Rebbe tells us that mitzad the world, Avedas Abirurim has already been done, the Rebbe says very, very clearly relative to each and every one of us, Avedas Abirurim has not been done. I mean, each and every one of us still has our own personal Aveda, Avedas Abirurim. That, on some level, I don't exactly understand how, on some level, that is not preventing the coming of Mashiach. It's Parshas Noach, Tefshin and Beis. The Rebbe says some amazing things there. That Avedas Berurim has already happened, the world is rectified, the world is ready for Mashiach. You and I might need certain fixings in our lives. We are not yet in a state of rectification. Fine. The fact that that's the case does not in any way, shape, or form, the Rebbe says, hinder the coming of Mashiach. That doesn't mean that you and I don't do Torah mitzvah to bring Mashiach. But our own personal hang-ups are not what's holding Mashiach back. We have to do those things that are necessary to bring Mashiach. That might, even though it might not necessarily affect me as positively as I would like it. You know?
Can you repeat what birurim was?
Rectifications.
For the goof.
Anything. For the book, for the car, for the goof, for me, for my nefesh habahamis, everything. Whatever it is that requires rectification, whatever it requires illumination. To rectify reality. How? How do we rectify reality? Which we saw above. Two different levels of Aveda. Subduing the Yetzer Hara and transforming the Yetzer Hara. Simply. But that's also relative to reality outside of ourselves as much as it's relative to reality in ourselves. Yes, relative to you and I, we have to do this Aveda v'Iskafia v'Ishafka relative to, as we respond to and relate to the different impulses that we receive from the Nefesh habahamis. Okay. But we also have to do it relative to the world. We have to transform the world more at the level of Ishafka, but to transform the world into a place of godliness. What's the ultimate expression of that? So the Rebbe said that the ultimate expression of that, we're going to see it later, but I mean, the Rebbe already said that Asuli Mikdash, Building a base of mikdash, what are you doing? Taking physical reality and turning it into a kli, a vessel for the revelation of God. It's as simple as can be. It's not simple to do, obviously, but the idea is as simple as can be. Physical objects become vehicles for revealing God. That's the base of mikdash. That's asuli mikdash. Okay, so every single one of us can do that in our everyday life. We're not building we are, yes, you're putting in another brick in the base of mikdash, so to speak. But ultimately, what are you doing? You're taking the physical reality that you encounter and you're elevating it and using it for kedusha. Okay, fine. That can be done in so many ways. That can be done in going to a place full of food, and when you take for yourself, you realize there's all sorts of other people who also need, because they're also going to come, and I might be the first guy here. So I make sure there's French fries for everybody. I don't take French fries in such a way that I'm not thinking about the fact that someone else is also going to have to come take French fries. That doesn't mean I don't take French fries. I take French fries. But do I take 7 bowls of French fries and empty the thing? No. Why not? Because I'm a healthy human being. Right? Okay. But might it be that, you'll watch people, they tend to be younger, but not always, right? Take so much food that it's like, hello, are you aware of the fact that this food is not just for you, it's also for all sorts of other people who are going to show up? And they might not be in the room right now. They might still be saying Aleinu, or putting on Rabbeinu Toms, or whatever they're doing. I don't know. Watching the highlights. I don't know what they're doing, but they're not here right now. Right? So might I have in mind those people? Yes, why not? That's illuminating that event, turning that event into an event that can be part of my relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It is part of my relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, whether I want it to be or not. The question is going to be, will it be a positive part or a negative part? If I'm not sensitive to that, then it's a negative part of my relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, because it shows I'm not sensitive to him or others. But if I am sensitive to him, then I'll be sensitive to others. If I'm not sensitive to others, it means I'm not sensitive to him, by definition.
Could you explain to me what Escafia de Ashafka means? Like, what's the difference with the second word?
Subduing and transforming. Right? Subduing the Yetzer Hara, it's there, or transforming it. Ultimately, that negative impulse disappeared. It's been transformed into something positive. Or just, disappeared. Right? The cigarette smoker. The first avoid is obviously iskafia. Pretty serious iskafia for quite a while. Okay, at a certain point, what? Ishafka. Right? The iskafia hopefully will lead to ishafka, and he is no longer a cigarette smoker. That'll take, 5 years down the road. Then you're sure. He's no longer a cigarette smoker. A year isn't enough.
To regenerate?
No, it's not going to start again. I've quit 5 times. Right? It's a year isn't enough.
No, it's not.
Right? Okay. So whatever it is. Right? They say, I don't know whether they're right or not, but the people who say this, the method they use seems to work better than any other method that anybody else has figured out yet. So they say that relative to alcoholism and drug abuse, there'll never be any ishafka relative to that type. That's what they say, right? Okay, are they right? I don't know. I wouldn't test it. Right? But the cigarette smoker will find the smell of cigarettes as disgusting and as obnoxious as all the rest of us 5 years later. But for the first while, he'll smell the smell of a cigarette and go, "Oh, I'd like a cigarette." But I'm not gonna have one. I'm not gonna have one. But that smells good. You and I smell it. Go, ugh, fat. It's like someone walks by after smoking a cigarette. It's like an ashtray just walked by you. It's a horrible smell, right? There's people whose sirtukim on Shabbos smell like cigarettes because the last thing they do before Shabbos have a cigarette. And then the first thing they do Motzei Shabbos in their sirtuk is a cigarette. So you stand next to them on Shabbos and they smell like an ashtray. You go, can you get a new kapota? Maybe smoke your cigarette without your sirtuk on. I don't know, do something so the rest of us don't have to smell cigarettes all Shabbos long. Okay, say that. It's an obnoxious habit, but it's a Rahmanis if someone started. Usually people start when they're young and dumb. And then they end up with this horrible habit. It's a terrible habit. It really is. It's a horrible habit. It kills people. Okay. But it's not like someone who doesn't smoke is superior to people who do, which is, of course, the way some people like to relate to these things. I'm superior because I don't do this. It's a taiva that people have, and they fell prey to it, and we all have taivas, and we fall prey to them sometimes. It's just that it's a little worse than most. But are you superior to cigarette smokers? You're not superior to anybody. Just be normal.
Sorry. It's interesting because a cigarette smoker, when they can transform themselves, even their lungs clear up.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, 100%.
47-year smoke.
Yeah, that, there'll be a physical thing that'll happen also. They'll be pink. I always tell the story. For the first time, my wife held the clamps in medical school, right? There was the guy, she was in an operation. Medical students, what do they do in order to be in operations? They're just holding the clamps, holding the person open, which is, to the rest of us, is just absolutely disgusting, but that's what they do. Right? So they're holding this thing because you got to keep the guy open. The way you figure you cut him open, you got to hold him open. Okay, and they're fiddling around in there doing whatever they're doing. Right? And so the first operation she was at, there was a heavy cigarette smoker. She said it looked like a furnace in there. It was just full of soot and black, and it was just disgusting. It was she couldn't believe. She said, "Whoa, it looked like the inside of an exhaust pipe." It just looked horrible. Excuse me, no. So so not a good idea. Okay, right. So there's all sorts of other taivas that are just as damaging. Only they're more damaging in spiritual terms than in physical terms. They're not so obvious. Okay, say that. But that's called the taiva. Now, can that taiva be undone? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Right? People with serious weight issues. Right? Obviously have a taiva to eat in a way that most people don't have a taiva to eat. Okay. What do they have to do in order to ultimately lose weight? First, iskafia, no doubt. Go on a diet, lose 100 pounds. Okay, then what? Ishafcha. That's the hard part. That's the part that most people don't do. Because what do they usually do after they lose 100 pounds? Gain it back 6 months later, right? Why? Because there was only iskafia and no ishafcha. What's the ishafcha? This must be extremely difficult, and we should all thank God every day that we don't have this issue, right? Completely change their relationship to food. That's the ishafcha of it. They have to change their relationship to food. Iskafia is I have the same relationship to the thing. It's just I don't do it. I want it just as much. I just don't do it. I don't want it a little less as time goes, right? But the ishafcha is I no longer want this, and as a matter of fact, I have a completely different relationship with it. Oh, okay. And that person will keep the weight off. That probably includes exercise and also, a completely different relationship to what it means to have a body. As opposed to just abusing it, you just, try to keep it in relatively good shape so it can be used for all those amazing things that it can do in Olam Hazeh. Right? And as long as it can be down here. Okay, good. That's reasonable. So that's Iskaf and Ishafri in Gashmias. In Ruchnias, same thing. Particular taiva that a person has for something that the Eibishter isn't so particularly enamored with. Okay, so the first is just the hard discipline of not doing it. Right? Then it comes, the next step is come to a point where I've completely changed my relationship to that kind of behavior. So it's no longer part of my conscious reality. Can we do that? Yes, of course we can do that. Can we do that completely and totally with every single taiva we're ever going to have? Probably not. That's called a tzaddik. Right? Can you do that relative to certain things? Absolutely, 100%. Most of us have been educated in such a way that we have absolutely no taiva whatsoever to murder. Why? Well, we were just educated like a normal, healthy human being. It had nothing to do with Yiddishkeit. Right? Just normal Western values will relate to murder is completely and totally beyond the line. It's just not shaykh. It's just not something you do. Oh, okay. So basically, everybody in this room, relative to that of Aveira, is a tzaddik. You know the time for that. I don't think when someone cuts you off on the highway, I'm gonna shoot him dead. No, it's us, sir. I can't shoot him dead. I'm not gonna shoot him dead. No, you do his coffee and you don't shoot him dead. That doesn't happen. If it does, please tell us. Okay? So we will take the necessary precautions. Okay? So that murder is something that I think most of us have been educated from a very young age out of. Okay, Baruch Hashem. So a religious education will hopefully do that for more things that are Asr al Pi Shulchan Aruch than a non-religious education, right? Okay, say that that's reasonable. So there'll be all sorts of things that the religious kid hopefully will grow up with and not have a taiva for, right? Just because it's just not part of the reality that he grew up with. It's just not there. Okay, he's probably not going to have a taiva. He's taken. Why? Well, it's just not there. It's not part of his world. Baruch Hashem. Okay. There's certain taivas that by definition a person has and is supposed to have, right? Because if we didn't have certain taivas, we wouldn't have children. Okay, good. So there's certain taivas that a person never gets rid of. Fine. They have to control it, right? But it's not going to disappear. By a tzaddik, it's not a taiva, but tzaddikim still have children. Okay. Food also. Right? Yes, the Alter Rebbe didn't taste food. Tzaddikim have a completely different relationship to food. But the basic taiva to eat is an important taiva because it keeps you alive. Mm-hmm. If you don't have that taiva, you're going to be in trouble. Right? Okay, and that's a fairly serious thing for a lot of teenage girls. Right? And it kills them, God forbid. Right? Okay. So...
Taiva would also be like a form of motivation.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. That could be, it is. That's exactly what a taiva is. Motivates me to act a certain way. So some are negative, some are just what they are, and they have to be used positively. Some are negative and should be done away with completely and totally. Some are just what they are and have to be channeled properly. Naturally, your body craves food. Your Nefesh Bahamis is going to like food, and your Nefesh Bahamis is probably going to also taste food. Meaning your body will taste food, but your Nefesh Bahamis will get pleasure from that experience. Okay, so after that's something relatively normal. Okay, so after that, I'm not going to get rid of that. That's not going to disappear. The Alter Rebbe didn't taste food. Okay. Rav Shlomo of Karlin was with the Alter Rebbe, and he did taste food, and he was also a big tzaddik, right? So it's not, don't go there, right? It's not your avodah. Okay, so what do? So you figure out how to relate to food in a healthy and holy way. Iskafi in our generation is not eating? It's ridiculous. Look what's out there, right? Iskafi in our generation, I've heard from someone who I respect a lot, and that was an amazing line. He said, Iskafi is eating healthy food. Iskafi in our generation is eating healthy food. It's not eating buckwheat groats like Richard Massey. Right? That's all he ate all week long. It's just not shaykh in the world we live in. Go to Machnei Yehuda and see what there is. Baruch Hashem. And go to where Richard Massey lived and see what there was. What was he not eating? How many things was he not eating when he was only eating buckwheat groats? 3 other things? Potatoes and chicken and maybe some meat. No, right? How often? What else was there? Right? Okay, so today, right? It's just what happens when people do that is they end up generally it ends up being an incredible klipa where they feel superior to other people because they are denying themselves certain things, and it causes them to feel superior to other people by virtue of their holiness. That's usually what happens today when people involve themselves in that avodah. And it's completely counterproductive. They're just amazed by their own holiness. And they make sure everybody knows. Right? It's like the joke is, what's the first thing a vegan says to you? Hi, I'm a vegan. Right? Okay, fine. Hi, I'm into Iskafia. Hi, how are you? I'm into being normal. Nice to meet you. Right? What does normal mean? You want to be into Iskafia? Be into Iskafia. Just don't advertise it. Then, because maybe the first thing I should do is Iskafia is advertising how holy I am. That's the first thing I should do with my Iskafia is not do that. Right? Not make sure that everybody knows how much I know or how holy I am or how much this. Right? That's also Iskafia. Right? My Nefesh Bahamis wants me to make sure everybody knows I know a lot. Everybody knows I'm holy. Everybody knows that's yeshiva yitzhara. Okay, but say that. I don't do that. Not necessary. Let's say Baruch Hashem. Going to be shown love and care regardless of how much I know, how much I don't know, what I do. That's also iskafia. Ukemaimer. Like, the Rebbe is now going to quote Tanya and spend the next 15 lines, 20 lines explaining this line in Tanya. Okay, and in that explanation, we're going to learn about Or Mamale and Or Sevev, two different levels of light, which we have talked about, and we'll see very clearly here. Kamaimer, Kadiskafia Sitra Achra. Kad, in Aramaic, the dalet is like a shin. So kad is a word, right? But it's like the prefix in Lashon HaKodesh, kshe, when. It's really more it's in Lashon HaKodesh in learning. It's not, you won't find it in Chumash. In Chumash you'll find ka'asher more in Tanakh, right? But kshe, when, right? Kisha amarti, when I said. Okay. So in Aramaic, the dalet, it's kad, kshe, when. Kadiskafia, when a person subdues sitra achra, the other side, the Yetzer Hara, the Nefesh Bahamis. Kad, Kadiskafia sitra achra, when a person subdues the sitra achra, istalik, it goes out. In this context, it means revealed. Yikra dekut shebrichu, the glory of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, b'chul almin, in all the worlds. Okay, now simply that seems to say that when you subdue your Yetzer Hara, when you don't act in accordance with a particular taiva that you have to do something that is against God's will, or to not do something that God wants you to do, right? Because a taiva can be either way, right? A taiva can also be not to do something negative, but not to do something positive, right? Same thing, right? So, well, expressed differently, but still coming from the same place. So I overcome that taiva and I do that thing that I realize I'm supposed to do, even though I don't have a great cheshek, great desire to do it. Okay, but I do it anyway. Okay, so that's called iskafia. I overcame the Yetzer Hara. Okay, kadiskafia sitra, what happens? Istalik, it goes out, yikr de kuchav. That sounds like that means, and I'm going to say it once and then erase it from your mind, because this is not what it means. It sounds like that it goes out the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in all the worlds. In other words, God's glory is revealed in all the worlds. That's not what it means. Let's see what it means. Vahine, Masha Kosa B'chul Almin. We're going to write it on the board in a minute and show it. Just right now we'll read it. Hine, Masha Kosa B'chul Almin, that which it says B'chul Almin, in all the worlds. Hakavana, the intention is Al Madrega Sa'or, the level of light, Shehu b'chul almin b'shava, that is in all the worlds equally. Vahainu, and what is that? Or hasovev kol almin, the light that surrounds, encompasses the worlds. Shemeir, that illuminates, shines, b'chol elamis b'shava, in all of the worlds equally. Okay. There's two different levels of godly light. One called Sevev, one called Mamale. Sevev is infinite godly light that does not express itself in any particular finite way. The other level of light is called Or Mimale, which we're going to see immediately. The Rebbe is going to talk about that level of light for the next 15, 20 lines. In order to understand Sevev, we're going to have to understand Mamale. What's Or Mamale? Or Mamale is that level of godly light that fills, Mimale, it fills. What does it fill? Kelim, vessels. And expresses itself in specific, unique, and basically, for purpose of understanding, finite ways. Right? Okay, so infinite godly light, that's called Sefer. Surrounds. Can't be expressed in finite terms. It's beyond finite, it's infinite. Then that light somehow is processed so that it can also express itself in finite and particular ways. Okay, what's a mashal for all that? Before we go to the mashal, let's first say pshat in the pasuk. See how the pasuk works.
It's not a pasuk, it's
Can we finally, we're done with Hanukkah, where the Hanukkah mimer is now going to disappear, which is painful for all of us. Okay. 6 different levels of Kaf Daled, Kaf Hey, and Kaf Vav. Hopefully we remember. Okay. Nice to have. Wait, didn't we take a black pen and put it back here or something? Didn't we do that at some point? Aha!
Oh, how about
Memory sharp as a tack, huh? Wow. Okay. Kad, Iskafia, Sitra Akra, Istalek, Yikra, the Kucha Brihu, the Hulu Almi. Okay, what does that mean? When you subdue the Sitra Akra, it goes out, the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that exists in all of the worlds equally. In other words, this is an adjective describing that, the light. Okay? It is not the address where the light goes. It's an adjective describing the light. What kind of light is revealed? The light that is in all the worlds equally. Okay? If you read the pasuk, it's not a pasuk, if you read the line wrong, so then you'll think all the worlds is the address. Where does the light reveal itself in all the worlds? No, that's not what it means. It means when you subdue the Sitra Akra, it goes out that level of light that is in all of the worlds equally. And that light is called or saving. Right? Surrounding, encompassing. Yeah? Okay. Now, in 10 minutes, let's just talk about that in terms of, before we'll see it inside. It'll be a lot easier if we give a hakdama first. A very basic mushal that is easy to understand because it's us. Right? And when we use ourselves as a mushal, we always understand it well because we seem to have some connection to ourselves. You and I, our neshama, our nefesh, has two different kinds of powers that relate to those. Well, okay, I should have written mamale on the board also. I will. I will. Not only should I, I'll do tshuva, I will. Now, that's not pshat in the statement of the Alter Rebbe. So I'll write it over here. Another level of light, or mamale, fills. The light that fills. What does it fill? Vessels. Kalim. Okay? Seder? That's the light that allows for finite revelation. The light itself is still infinite, but it expresses itself in finite ways. Okay, we used this as a mushal about 4,000 times, right? Right? The light that is right here, in terms of color, can express itself in an infinite amount of colors. Right? Okay, as soon as it hits this object, what happens? The light reflects off this. The blue of the light reflects off this object. The rest of those infinite amount of colors are, so to speak, swallowed up and concealed by the object. This object reveals blue in light. Is light blue? Yeah. Is it only blue? Absolutely not. That's completely false. If this thing were the only thing in the world, you might think light is only blue. Right? If all there was blue, so you think light is blue, well, that would be wrong. It might be you're in a world where light only reveals itself as blue, okay, but that doesn't mean light is only blue. Physical light, I'm talking about physical light, obviously, not godly light. Physical light can express itself in an infinite amount of colors. There's no end to the amount of colors, shades, etc. that light can express itself in, for all intents and purposes. Just another drop of white, it'll be a little lighter. Another drop of black, it'll be a little darker. Okay. But each physical item that light reflects off, not clothed in, but reflects off, expresses a different aspect of that light. So Amnon's book, and that has like a little blue and some red and there's some yellow. That's pretty good. That's for the. It's got a lot of the primary colors revealed over there. Okay. So now, your soul as it's clothed in your body. Your soul as it's clothed in your body expresses itself in two different ways. It's clothed in your body, and it also, so to speak, encompasses your body. Meaning there's a mushal for or mamale in the powers of the soul, and there's a mushal for or soivev in the powers of the soul. What's the mushal for or mamale in the powers of the soul? Sight, hearing, speech, intellect, movement. Different powers of the soul that are clothed in different kalim, which you and I call limbs, different kalim in the body, and it's the energy of the soul, which we call light. It's the energy of the soul that's clothed in that particular part of the body that allows that part of the body to do that which it does when you're down here in Olam Hazeh, when you're down here in this world. So the eye is a kli for the power of sight that exists in the soul. And when that power of sight is clothed in the eye and the optical nerves and the optical center of the brain, they all work in concert. And it might be you have to put some artificial things on top of them to help them work a little better, but they work so that you can see physical reality. Now, how do I know that eyes don't see, but souls see, and that souls use eyes in order to see? How can I prove that?
Dead.
Dead person doesn't see, do they? They've got eyes, they got optical nerves, they've got an optical center of the brain, not seeing anything. Why not? Because eyes don't see. Souls see. Souls in this world use eyes to see. It's like cars don't drive. People drive, right? Cars allow people to drive, but cars don't drive, right? Truck kills 15 in Washington. No. The truck didn't kill 15. A person killed 15 using the truck. Truck kills 15. Okay, funny headline. Okay, so kalim are the vehicles to allow for light to express itself. Just like this book allows light. If there's no light in this room, guess what? You don't see the blue on this book. Is the book still blue? Okay, talk to a philosopher about it. I don't know. He'll talk about it in a philosophy class, right? Interesting, right? Okay, someone has to make a living. Okay, yeah, but kalim reveal light, but they reveal light in a specific way. They hide the infinite nature of light and reveal the finite nature of light. The ability of light to express itself in finite. So this kli reveals the power of sight in your soul. This kli reveals the power of hearing in your soul. This kli reveals the power of speech in your soul. This reveals the power of smell in your soul. This thing up there, in there, reveals the power of intellect in your soul. This reveals the power of movement in your soul. Now, movement can be very, very sophisticated, right? Since there's a thing in here, these can be taught to play a concerto on a piano. That's pretty sophisticated. Okay. And they're taught, all of us do sophisticated things with our hands without even thinking about it. I mean, writing is pretty sophisticated, right? The ability to move your hand in such a way that you can actually write something down. Right? I just heard a story that a graphologist was given some writing of the Alter Rebbe, and she was not told who it was. And the Rebbe said that her understanding of the Alter Rebbe was absolutely astounding. That what she said about the Alter Rebbe was absolutely astounding.
Just based off his handwriting.
What?
Based off his handwriting.
Based on the hand, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So graphology is something that basically the Rebbeim hold is very, very real. Right? That you can really find out a lot about people. Right? Since then, she was given other kisvei yad of other Rebbeim, evidently. This was a long time ago, 50 years ago. But she evidently, by the Alter Rebbe, the Rebbe was astounded at how she, I assume the Rebbe knows something about the Alter Rebbe that we probably don't know. Right? And he's absolutely astounded at how insightful her understanding of the Alter Rebbe was just from his writing. So writing is a pretty interesting thing, right? I mean, the fact that we learn how to do that, and we watch kids learn how to do it, it's quite astounding. They make a big mess of it at the beginning, and they write these really cute things, right? Okay. But they figured out how to write over the ages, over the days. Okay, so all of those, now what all of these aspects of the soul are a mashal for what? Or mamale. Light that fills. Light, specific light, the power of sight, which has a specific kli, the eyes, were the power of sight to be clothed in the ears. I wouldn't hear and I wouldn't see. That light is not for that kli. Right? Won't work. Right? So the power of sight is a mashal for or mamale. The power of sight, the power of hearing, all of those powers, they're called what? Koiches hapnimim, the inner powers of the soul. The part of the soul that clothes itself in your body and is mafil your body. It causes your body to act. When that soul leaves the body, there's still a body. The soul does not give the body existence. The soul gives the body life. Right? Existence of the body, the Eibishter gives the body existence. The Eibishter creates the body. The soul gives the body life. When the Eibishter breathes a soul into a body, that gives the body life, not existence. There's a difference between those two. Right? Okay, and the life of the body, how does the soul do that? Because these different powers of the soul are clothed in different parts of the body, and therefore the body works. So it sees, and it hears, and it talks, and it jumps, and it walks, and it does all sorts of stuff. Thinks, sometimes we even do that, right? Okay, that's all mamale. Yeah, that's clear. And that means relative to mamale, there's higher levels and lower levels, right? Obviously, intellect is a much more sophisticated power than movement, even though movement can ultimately result in a Bach concerto being played on a piano. Okay, that's impressive, but the only reason I can do that is to have intellect, and the only reason Bach could write it in the first place is because he has intellect. Right? Okay, 1 second. So it can be very sophisticated, but still, obviously, this is much more sophisticated. And so this kli is a much more sophisticated kli than this kli, right? Don't do that to this. Right? You'll end up like Muhammad Ali. Right? Just drool the last 20 years of your life. Because this is a very sophisticated kli. And is pretty well protected, right?
Don't hit too hard.
It's all right. This, with what I've got in this, it ain't Joe Frazier, so it's not going to do so much damage to what's in there, right? Okay, so right. So this is a very sophisticated kli, and this is it's still sophisticated, but it's a much less sophisticated kli. And in fact, monkeys can probably use this on a certain level even better than you and I can, because the monkey will be able to grab onto a branch and swing from it in a way that you and I can't. Okay, but the monkey can't do a mathematics problem, and he can't learn my Chassidus. Right?
I thought some monkeys had to do C-sections, resonance, but it was amazing. They didn't think that much, but you could do it. You can teach them.
Okay.
So to clarify, or mamale is koiches hapnimim.
Koiches hapnimim.
Hapnimim.
Koach is a masculine. It's crazy language with kochot hapnimim. Yes, what are you going to do? That's what it is. Yes, kochot hapnimim, inner powers of the soul. Then there's what's called kochot hamakifim, powers that surround. What does that mean? That means powers that. Now Baruch Hashem, we have all these words that we can use now that help us understand these things much more easily. I don't know what people did before so-called modern psychology gave us all these words. Superconscious reality. What did people say before there was this word superconscious? They said koiches makifin, but then you had to explain it, but you didn't have easy words to explain it. Now we have very, very easy words. Superconscious reality. What does that mean? That means something beyond my conscious reality. Now, it works upon my conscious reality to cause my conscious reality to do everything that my conscious reality does, but it itself is not conscious reality. What's that? What am I describing? Will. Ratzon. Ratzon is not housed in any particular part of your body. Sight is, hearing is, intellect is, movement is, smell is, speaking is, all of those powers are housed in specific places in your goof. Ratzon is not housed in any particular place in your guf. It powers all of them equally. It is found everywhere equally. The reason you move your big toe is because you want to. The reason you think about a deep idea in Chassidus is because you want to. The highest and the lowest, it's all equally expressions of Ratzon. And it might be that an incredibly powerful expression, you might use as much Ratzon in a very mundane physical way as you could in a very, very sophisticated intellectual or spiritual way. Because if your car is 300 meters away from the gas station, when you ran out of gas, you're going to use every ounce of your physical energy, but you're going to will yourself to push that car up that slight incline until you get to the gas station. And you're just going to close your eyes and will that car to the gas station. Very powerful expression of will. You're not stopping until you get there. Your legs, your arms, they're just buckled to that will. I am making it to the gas station. Okay, and you do. What's happening? Okay, I said your legs are powerful enough to do that. You can't, a 3-year-old can't do that. I get it. Okay, but the reason you're doing it is because there's a very powerful expression of your will to do that. So too, if you sit in front of a Maimar Chassidus, you don't understand, and you keep going over it, and you ask some questions until you get it. So I said it was a tremendous expression of will to figure out what it means. Right? As Rabbi Gordon said, get blisters on your brain when you learn a Tosfos. Just like you get blisters on your feet when you go on Talucha, walking across London for whatever reason. Okay? Fine. So makif, all encompassing. Will, another example of power of the soul that's makif, tanug, pleasure. Where do you get pleasure? Oh, physical pleasure, emotional pleasure, spiritual pleasure, intellectual pleasure. Where's pleasure in your body? Everywhere. I don't understand. Might be one of the most powerful expressions of pleasure will be taking off shoes and socks and putting tired, hot feet in a cold creek as you walk up the mountain trail. Ah, does this feel good? Wow. Okay. Right? Now, some people never experience that, right? You have to experience the pain of walking up the hill before you experience the pleasure of putting your feet in the creek. Right? Okay, fine. It's not pain, but the difficulty of walking up the hill. Fine. Other pleasure, learning an idea, going, wow, what an idea. That's amazing. Okay. Emotional pleasure, seeing someone that you love. Right? Pleasant. Physical pleasure, eating, well, that was our feet. Right? Spiritual pleasure, actually feeling a connection to the Eibishter. Right? So it's a makif. It's even more makif than ratzon, because the motivating force of ratzon is pleasure. The reason you want something is you get pleasure from it. Why? I don't know. I don't know why I get pleasure from it. Why do I like the taste of chocolate pudding? I have no idea. Most people find that a pleasant taste. Why? I don't know. It just gives me pleasure. It gives me physical pleasure, eating chocolate pudding. I have no idea why. I was not misbaiting on chocolate. I understood how it's made and what it is and how it works, and I don't understand any of that. All I know is that most people, when they put chocolate pudding in their mouth from a very early age, that if you put it, chocolate pudding in the 8-month-old's mouth when they start eating food, and don't give them chocolate pudding, give them something healthier, but if you give them chocolate pudding, their eyes will open up like this and they'll start drooling chocolate down. You better have a bib ready. Drooling chocolate down the side of their mouth. They're absolutely overwhelmed by the taste of what you just put in their mouth. They're like, wow. Okay. That happens with vanilla, so take your son to a psychologist early in life and work it out. Okay. That's saving. So now we're going to see that in Elokus the moment.
Thank you.
Rabbi, was that woman who was a pathologist, was that something she published, or was that just a conversation?
I don't know. I don't know exactly. I'd have to find the story again. It's a really interesting story, the whole thing. Why, who decided to do this? But I remember the